My hair looks so bad right now. I swear there was something wrong with the water at Butlins, because ever since I washed my hair that first day, I just feel like it hasn't been able to, the hair hasn't dried properly. It feels just so much thicker than it usually does. Anyway, I was just finding another angel, and I can't remember, 2 years ago, I remember finding pink and being like, yes, that's it, I found them all. And I think I'd only found about 10 at that point. And it's amazing that I found so many, and I'm still finding them. And yeah, this one, Skylar Gray or something, I think. I have not been following her. I have not been following P Diddy, to be honest. When I named him Angel of the Father last Angel of God the Father last year or year and a half ago, I actually had to look up. I looked up Google just to confirm that Puff Daddy and Diddy were the same people. So that just shows you how little I know about him and how I was not following him. And I like R&B, but I always seem to go for the female R&B singers. I think when I was younger, I preferred the bands. But to be honest, I never really liked music that much because I really wanted to be a singer. And it's like I really like playing tennis, and therefore I don't really like watching people play tennis because I want to get involved in the tennis match, and I want to play the tennis. I don't want to just watch people, and I feel that same way with the music industry. I don't really like listening to music. Well, I do, I enjoy it, but I don't like following artists because I feel slightly jealous over the fact that they're doing all the things that that I wanted to do. Um, and yeah, and I guess I've fallen onto the topic of justice and revenge, versus revenge. And I've just come across this singer who worked with Diddy before 2012. She was in a band, Danity Kane. I don't really know too much about Danity Kane. Like, when there was all these allegations about him, I guess Danity Kane got brought up because of that blonde girl, and I didn't really know what to say about the band. I didn't know it was the same girls. According to this documentary that I've seen, that the ones in the Skylar one, who I've named Angel of Justice, she is the girl in Danity Kane, even though she looks very, very different. And I don't know, the whole Danity Kane, I can't even say it. Is Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what people have done. I know that there's been injustice and justice on both parts. I think this girl represents justice and injustice, and if people have done things to hurt other people, then it's justice that that they get something back. But I feel like a lot of people forget that bad things happen to a lot of people. There's a lot of people who get threatened by a friend. You've done this, I'm going to kill you. And they could generally be fucking scared at the time. And you would say it's justice to put them in prison. I think ASAP Rocky, this story inspired me on that one. He scared the shit out of an old friend. And I think the old friend did feel scared and did want revenge from it, and to and then that got me thinking on the topic. Is it fair to put someone in prison and ruin their life, over them threatening to ruin someone else's life, yet what they did was actually just a threat? Like, it's a different situation if it's a complete stranger. If you break into a store, threaten someone's life whilst stealing their goods, I feel like that's different, because then you face a risk that proves that you're like a risk to the public. But if it's a friend, if I don't know, if the friend, it really depends on the friend's relationship. Some friend might know that someone's just playing around and isn't actually serious with the threat, and then later make out that they were serious. Oh no, I thought he was serious, and they might just be saying that to make money off someone. I think if someone's rich or celebrity, that there's a lot of people that would take advantage of their wealth and say, well, you've done this crime on me. Now I'm going to use my status as a victim to try and get an unjustified amount of money. I'm not too bothered with justice or injustice. I mean, both are important, but if it's justice or injustice, it's sometimes karma comes back harder than what you give it out, and that's injustice. Yes, it's not fair. they didn't deserve that, but at the same time, it's not hugely bad. But revenge is where you take out a lot of crime on someone. You've hurt me, and I'm going to hurt you, and in a far worse way that will leave you with permanent scars. And a lot of crimes do involve trauma and stuff. But don't you think putting people in prison also causes trauma, especially for years, and the stuff that can happen in prison as well? Often the stuff that happens to prisoners inside a jail is far worse than the original crime that the person committed, and yet after the crime they're still forced to fill out to pursue their time. I mean, that feels unfair. This person, say someone rapes someone and gets put in jail for 17 years, which just sounds crazy, the fact that someone can get that much. If they've beaten them up to a point where they are in hospital for a year because of it, or suffering long-term damage, well then yeah, of course a long sentence is fair. But if they've just traumatized someone for 30 minutes, okay, it's wrong, and they definitely deserve to go to prison. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but I'm saying that people don't necessarily know the amount of suffering that happens when you're trapped in an ugly, horrible room, not allowed to leave, your door being locked every night, with, I don't know, peeing whilst people are staring at you, feeling the threat of maybe these criminals might attack you or rape you or something. To have to live with this every single day because of the trauma that you've placed on someone. You will learn your lesson, but you will learn it to an extent that's completely unjustified, but more than unjustified. It's revenge. That's what it feels like. And a lot of people are hurt by so many different people. I feel hurt by a lot of different people, and I do feel hurt by Rihanna, and therefore standing up for her partner does seem a bit stupid because of this. But I feel like I've been hurt by so many people that I don't know who necessarily to put the blame on. And I think a lot of people are in this situation where they there was one person who said that she was in an abusive relationship and then went with R. Kelly, and R. Kelly kind of was the savior at that point because she just come out of an abusive relationship, and then years later she starts claiming that R. Kelly was also an abusive relationship. And you could put all the shame and revenge on R. Kelly, but then if you think, well, what did her previous boyfriend do to her? I mean, what her previous boyfriend did to her far worse than R. Kelly? And yet how come R. Kelly gets a huge amount of negative stuff and punishment, when her other boyfriend, who treated her even worse, doesn't get anything? Why? Because he's not famous and people can't make money off it. You have to ask yourself these questions when looking at justice. It's complicated because every situation is different. I could be saying this, and there could be someone who's really is suffering trauma from being raped by a complete stranger under knife point, and you might be thinking, oh no, stop supporting them, stop supporting them. But I have to look at things from the perspective that everyone's experience is different, and everyone's relationship with a person is different. It's not good to be attacked, but if you're attacked by someone who is fairly similar to people that you have been dating, then it's slightly less traumatic than someone who's completely different and completely not your type. And that every situation is different, and different situations cause different amounts of trauma or different degrees of it, and people will seek revenge. And if they've had a horrible life, and they see an opportunity or a window to persecute someone, that they might do this. And I feel like my higher self is actually doing this. I feel like there's a lot of people who are suffering hugely, and my higher self doesn't really care because she's looking at what's happening to me and thinking, well, it's not as bad as what's happening to me, so why should I care? But technically that person hasn't actually committed a huge crime against me. Okay, they don't know who I am and haven't really bothered to find out, and they might read the Bible and be like, yeah, this is the God I worship. But I don't know, they didn't deserve all the shit that's happened to them in their life. But at the same time, my higher self is just thinking, well, why should I help you? Because I didn't deserve all this shit. So I feel like there's a huge amount of revenge placed on me. And I feel like if other people are getting, or feel like other people are taking out revenge on them, it's hard for me to care about that. And I feel like this is the reason why justice has got lost in the justice system. Because so many people just can't tell the difference between justice and revenge, and they'll use justice as a name to get revenge. and to egg people on and say, oh, you're being so brave, come on, speak out. At the end of the day, they might be holding back because secretly they know that they did lie about their age, or they did try and seduce that guy, or they were hoping that if they slept with R. Kelly, they'd get some sort of music contract out of it, or they'd be able to make money. Or maybe they actually liked the guy and didn't want to turn against him, and then lawyers were like, oh well, we can get you £10 million if you do. Okay, yeah, I'll turn against him. It's a sellout, and crimes that are real crimes are usually reported within a timescale. Like if they're really young, then maybe they don't report it because they don't see it as a crime until they're a bit older. So I think it might be different in rape cases of people that are really teenagers. It might be a few years before they realize or see that was actually wrong in it. But a lot of times it is there wrong in it. If a 15-year-old really wants to sleep with an older person because they idolize that person and see that person's amazing, okay, yeah, in 10 years time they're not going to see it in the same way, and they're going to look back thinking, what the hell was I doing? And they might feel like a victim, but at the end of the day, if they've also had sex with other people who are less good, and they didn't get the same kind of wow, I'm sleeping with someone who's important. If they didn't get that same vibe, then it means that they did actually gain something from it at the time, even though they might not remember the positives. There's positives and negatives in everything, and it's so easy to just look at the negatives and place and then twist all the words to make the negatives seem. I did see a video where someone was just like, R. Kelly was a monster accused of horrific sex crimes. And the only sex crime this video actually talked about was him giving a golden shower to someone. Just disgusting. And I can imagine there being like a lot of posh snobs in a room being, oh, he gave someone a golden shower, like being completely shocked at the fact of someone pissing on someone. You know what? When I went around that civil place and I was trying to get visions of people in the 1700s, do you know what I kept seeing? I kept seeing drunk Tudor looking people, I don't know, in period clothing, pissing on people. That's what they were because beer was so cheap, and hobs and what's that, it was so cheap beer that a lot of people were just drunk all the time, hence passing out in the streets. And it was a very common thing to piss on people if they were drunk. And no one would have got a penalty for that, because they would have just blamed the drunk person. Oh, it's your fault for getting drunk. It's your fault for collapsing. It's your fault for passing out. And if you're going to get people pissing on you as you walk past, that's just your fault for passing out. That was the vision. I don't know. I kept trying not to see that vision, but I kept seeing, like, at least 10 times. I kept having a vision. Like, what's happened? And then I just see guys piss on people, and it's a bit funny because. Right now it's by some YouTubers it's considered to be a horrific sex crime. It's disgusting, and I don't really, I wouldn't want to be pissed on myself, but I don't know. Allowing yourself to be pissed on by someone kind of shows that you really like that person. Maybe I mean dogs do it. So dogs piss on each other, and that's just kind of their way of marking their territory. I don't know. I don't really understand that they're pissing on things, but it's not horrific and horrific sex crime, and it was just things like that kind of makes me wonder what are these sex crimes that he's doing? What, taking a woman into a dark room and having sex in the dark? I mean, that actually sounds kind of fun, and even being a bit controlling. Okay, it's not really, it's toxic masculinity definitely, but there is something nice about it, and guys do usually put most of their effort in. I saw another video the other day where a guy is saying, if your girlfriend ever complains about you not being able to try having sex for more than a minute, get your girlfriend to lie on a bed and actually do those sex movements or those humpings, and get her to do it for more than a minute. And he got her to do, his girlfriend to do it, and she's like, after 10 seconds she was like, yeah, I'm tired now. And it's just things like that. It's like sex is actually an effort and a hard, a lot of movement and a lot of work. And I'm probably shit in bed, but I don't know. There's just so many ways of seeing things. Something can be attractive. It can be attractive to tie someone up and have sex with them with a blindfold. I find that quite a turn on, to be honest, and therefore. But some people can turn that into, he was shaping me into just wanting whatever he wants. And it's like, yeah, but maybe you weren't coming up with ideas, and he was coming up with ideas. So there's just it's weird how anything can be changed into something, and especially to take something that's happened so long ago, yeah, and then talk about it as if you remember exactly what happened, even though it was like years and years later, and to cry over about it. I mean, I feel like R. Kelly isn't a great guy, so I don't really want to support him. I don't really want to be on his side, because I think he was very controlling, and very heartless towards girls he no longer fancied, and I think he did abuse his power. Um, but anyone with money can abuse their power. You know, if you get if you pay for a prostitute, that prostitute shouldn't have the right to then say, "Oh, he's abusing his power. He had money to buy me for £100 for an hour, or some prostitutes work for 50 quid." You know, if these prostitutes start suing their rich clients, "Oh, I didn't actually want to do this, but he gave me money and he kind of forced me with his wealth and fame." You know, isn't that similar to what these girls? I guess they weren't actually getting paid, but rent is expensive, and the things that he was buying. You know, there was one case where he's paid for an expensive sort of airplane to bring one person from one to place to another. You know, some people pay a lot of money to go on an airplane to go on holiday, and she got a free holiday. And okay, he might have probably pushed and forced and encouraged, and maybe she was younger than what she claimed to be, and she actually looked a lot older, to be honest. I mean, there are some people that you look, really, they're 15. Oh my gosh, you know, you can't make every guy worried about sleeping with an 18-year-old, you know, in case they're not. You know, to think that guys should be in bars saying, "I'm not going to buy you a drink unless you show me, I'm not going to start coming on to you unless you show me your ID, because I need to make sure that you're over age so that you don't try and sue me later." And then some people even have fake IDs and stuff. But I don't know. It's got me thinking about all these things, and then I come across this singer who, her name seems to be hidden everywhere, and I don't know. It's like Diddy wants no association with her. But if she represents justice, and if most people, including Diddy, want revenge, not justice, that could be a hidden reason as to why he wants no association with her. And maybe there was something that's you know, him pressurizing her into having sex. But I feel like that's part of the industry. You know, that the whole music industry is like one big sex occult. You know, I tried to get into the music industry, and I had most of the producers kind of just spin things round to want to have a relationship, even though none of them were any good at producing. This isn't a fault inside bad people. This is a fault inside guys, um, you know, wanting to help and do things in the music industry, but also wanting sex. And it's a fault inside guys, and guys shouldn't fear being prosecuted if they have been encouraging. You know, he might have said to someone that's going to pimp these girls out, but at the same time, it's not necessarily as bad as it might make out. You know, there's good and bad. Are these guys using these girls for sex, or are these girls using these guys to try and gain a career out of them? You know, if I wanted a career, and if sleeping with a couple of guys gave me the career that they had, I would do that. Hence, I wouldn't see it as me being pimped out. I would see it as me getting what I want by doing something that I don't really want. But isn't that what every job is? You know, no one wants to work in a store for £7 an hour, just feeling like nothing. You know, no one wants to take out the trash. No one wants to be a cleaner night and day, and yet these girls who, you know, sex offenses, yes, and maybe they were taken advantage of, but then they get rewarded with huge amounts of money, more money than I would make in my whole life, and they get it for one night from the sex. And it's just like, yeah, now I just feel jealous of those people. I mean, I'm glad they get something, but it's, you know, it's to put that person in prison even after they've paid out, even after they've settled the agreement, and to still bring up all these bad cases against someone. You know, there are a lot of bad people, and I feel like just bad people are lawyers. You know, bad people are people who want to try and dig up as much dirt as they possibly can, so that they can claim to be doing the right thing, by prosecuting someone when really these cases were settled with probably unfair amounts of money that the other person got. So, it's just it's very complicated, and I wish people were smart enough to see it how it should be seen, which is that there is good and bad in everything.